How are you?
Hi, thank you all for joining us again at Mindshift Ed. In our Academy of Powerful Parents. We're at class number 7, and we are at monitoring your progress. And this is all about, we're going to be talking about the all of the ins and outs of a parent teacher conference and some tips and tricks to help you really navigate the parent teacher conference to get more out of it and things like that. So thank you all for joining us. Let me go ahead and get started with this. All right. So, Melody, since you're our first student here, if I could just get you to read for our agenda for today, please.
Icebreaker, parent teacher conference, why, before the conference prep, during the conference, leading the way, collabor- collaboration versus conflict confrontation, reflection and leading, and follow up.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. So, we have a pretty full agenda today. We'll see how we can do it. Last time we finished pretty in a pretty good time. We'll see how long this takes us. All right. So we had a different kind of icebreaker a little bit. But because of things that have happened, this is the icebreaker that I just felt like doing today. Um, so if your life had a soundtrack, what would be the song that you would have in your head that would be playing right now for you? Verónica, si acaso tenías una canción que describe cómo te estás sintiendo, ¿cuál sería la canción que estuviera tocando ahorita?
Pues ahorita, como estamos, como que ahorita Selena no me llega la inspiración.
Exacto. Por eso la cambié.
Pero sí me gustan su música y es con mariachi. No me acuerdo si es otra vez o cómo se llama la canción, pero ahorita te la busco y te digo cómo se llama, ¿vale?
Okay. So my song that I have today is a Mexican song, and I feel it's appropriate for this week. Is La Rata con Dos Patas. Maribel, do you have a soundtrack for today?
Yeah, I was like, ooh, all the songs. First one that kicked in was I'm a Survivor, right? I'm a survivor. Because I feel like that's where we're at. But then I was like, the one that I always tend to play all the time anyways is the Black Eyed Peas, Where's the Love? Like, what's wrong
Mhm.
with the world, mama, right? Like it always like
Yeah.
I'm like, what's wrong with the world, right? So I think those two are like in my soundtrack right now.
Okay. Delia, do you have a song playing in your head right now, or for today? It's
She put in the chat, I will survive, but I don't know if that's a song. Oh, yeah,
oh
it is. I
yeah,
will
I will
survive.
survive. Melody, do you have a song for today?
I'm not sure. I was going to be like Veronica, like my favorite is Selena, but I don't know.
Okay, all right. So today is a little bit of how we're feeling. Uh, all right. And this is just a kind of a little discussion question. Um, how do you feel when you know you're heading into a parent teacher conference? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel scared? Do you feel like, I already know what's going on? Or how are you feeling? And why do you think parent teacher conferences are important? Why do you make time out of your day to try and attend them? So for me, Honestly, I knew my daughter, and so I always knew that the parent teacher conference was gonna go well for the most part. And I was actually would be get all surprised when like somebody would tell me that I don't know that there was a problem because I was like, what? Yeah. But yeah, usually I never thought very much about them. I always felt like I knew what was going on with my daughter, and she was always definitely she was the kind of kid that would be like spilling everything that was coming, that was happening. I would get a detailed report of her day at school. So I always felt like, very confident going into one that they were going to tell me she was a good student, and that, I didn't worry very much about, which I now realize that I probably should have been way more alert and understanding about, and way wanting to have more information because just because I felt like felt very confident that I knew what was going on didn't necessarily mean that that was the case. So that's how I felt about it, and I do think now that I see everything, just because I had a very positive experience with my daughter, this doesn't mean that everybody gets that. And I do think that they're important because you are finding out what is truly going on in the school and not just what the child is telling you. And definitely it gives you more information than just a simple progress report. And that's how I felt about it. Does anybody else have anything that they wanted to share?
Yeah, I'll share. I think there's a transition, right? I think I think when we first start off with our kids in their younger years, I think it's somewhat easier, right? Because I mean they're cute, they're cute, and they're doing all the cute things. I believe it does get more challenging towards middle school, and then obviously high school because there's a lot less of a connection that we have with the teachers. But I do feel like in the beginning, when I started my education journey, I didn't know what to ask at a parent-teacher conference. I just would show up and I thought that was enough, right? I was like, okay, I'm here. I made it, right? But as we progress through the years and you start like asking the right questions about their academics, their progress, their learning, your questions get fine-tuned, and it starts becoming less of a challenge for families. I think the challenge then becomes the multitude, right? Like having 8 teachers in middle school or high school, that becomes more challenging and we're gaining the experience, but then now we have another element, right, to deal with. So I think it varies for all the families and parents. Everybody's going to be in a different stage, but definitely something that needs to happen for us to be able to know what's happening at school when we're not there.
Delia, are you on the phone, or you?
I had gotten off the phone and then I got another call right now, so sorry.
No worries. Melody, how's it been for you at the parent teacher conferences? Melody?
She might be working.
Oh, it's true. Verónica, ¿cómo te has sentido cuando estás en las conferencias de padres y maestras? Oh, she also might be on a phone call.
Pues ahora ya me siento más segura.
Okay.
Puedo platicar con los maestros, ya no me enojo tan fácil, me despido cordial y ahora puedo como tener una conversación más fácil con ellos.
Okay, qué bueno. Okay, entonces, here we go.
Melody had to hop off. She let me know.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, so why are parent-teacher conferences important? Firstly, they open the lines of communication and collaboration. They provide an opportunity for parents and teachers to communicate about the students' academic progress, their behavior, their strengths, any issues that they're having at school. So it's kind of helpful to make sure that there's no problems, there's no, because sometimes a problem is very small, but it keeps growing, it keeps growing, it keeps growing, and we don't find out about it until it gets really bad. So it's important to have that kind of communication collaboration with the teachers. The You gain insight into how the students are doing. You get a more detailed understanding of how they're doing in the classroom, and the teachers can give you examples. They can let you look at their test scores and maybe have some observations as to what they see, what struggles a child might be having. You can also identify issues early, just like we were saying. Sometimes you're seeing, oh, you know what, he's falling behind a little bit in reading, and you think, oh well, it's not a big deal, he's going to make it up. But then it keeps on happening, grade after grade, until the other students in class are so much more ahead of this other student. So we want to find those issues out right now, and try and work on them right now before these students get so behind. It gets much more difficult for them to catch up. And then we want to do some goal setting. We want to set academic behavioral goals, discuss plans, how to achieve them. We want to build relationships with our teachers. We want to build positive relationships and let them know that we're there, and we want to address concerns together. And and to address those concerns, and that way you have a dedicated time when you're not like trying to talk to the teacher as you're picking up your child, and there's all these things going on and the teacher's having to do all this stuff. This is a dedicated time to talk about things, concerns that you have. So they really play a crucial role in supporting students' overall growth and development. So that's really one of the things why they're so important. And I feel like many times, especially if we have a child that doesn't really, it feels like they don't really cause you, they don't have too many problems. It feels like, oh, they're a good student, or they're a responsible student, because it's being a good student, as in, having good grades, is very different from actually just being not a problem student. So problem students are always going to get, they're always going to get attention, and good students, they're always going to get a little bit of attention. But those students that are in the middle, those are the ones that sometimes will fall behind, and they rarely get looked at because, oh, well, they're doing okay. They're not doing great, but they're not a problem. But, so they're just in the middle, and those are the ones that tend to fall behind, and little problems become big problems. So we want to go ahead and address that and make sure we find out about it way before it's time, way before it becomes a big problem. All right. So before the conference happens, there's some steps that we want to do. We want to decide what we're going to share as far as the conference goes. What's maybe something is happening at home. So there's some things going on that that maybe you have to share, so that the teacher understands that there might be issues at home that might be affecting the student's performance or their behavior or whatever. It might be, oh, there's a new baby at home, or, oh, we're getting, I'm getting a divorce, things like that. Things like that can have a big effect on how the students, not just their behavior, but also their academics as well. So you have to decide what you're going to share with a teacher. You have to prepare your questions. I have some active learning questions you can jot down. You can keep those for yourself. And you want to go ahead and talk to the child and ask them how they feel about school, see how they're doing, how they feel they're doing, what subjects they enjoy, what subjects are they having a hard time with, and ask them questions. What doesn't he like? What doesn't your child like? What is there something that he would change? What does he think about his teachers, or how, is he having issues with learning? Uh, just kind of get a feel for what's going on in the classroom. You have to look through your reviewing your materials is basically looking through their homework assignments, seeing what kind of grades he's getting, reviewing their progress reports and their report cards, and seeing if there's any changes in behavior or their grades, looking at their test scores if you have that ability, if you're able to go online and look at their test scores, their map or their star, all of those things. So look at all of that and get that information with you and decide on what you want to get out of the conference. That is one of the most important things, because basically, if all you want to know is, oh, okay, well, is he doing good or is he doing bad? That's what a lot of people want. It's like, oh, well, just let me know if he's having problems. But if you have an actual goal, what do I want to get out of this? I want to know if he's on track, if his STAR test meets criteria, if he, where are we at with that? I want to know, how specifically he is doing with far as his behavior, or how is he doing with his work? Is he struggling? Decide on what you want to get out of the conference, because that will actually get you to really and truly think about the conference and what what you're going to do at it, and what are you going to be able to get from it. And if you go into this one, and I'll have Maribel put it in the chat and also email it to anybody who needs it, these are some active learning questions that are available, and for a parent teacher conference. And a lot of them, I'm gonna let you know, a lot of them are very similar sometimes, but it's just kind of, using the kind of language that feels more natural to you. How is my child progressing in class? Is my child working at grade level? How is my child developing socially? Does he get along with the other kids? What does she like to do? What kind of classwork does she like to do? What strategies have you found most effective with my child? What are his strengths? What kind of exams does my child take? Those kinds of things. There's a lot of questions in here, including they go from just basic general questions to, oh, well, if he is having issues, what type of support can he receive? What kind of support can I ask for? What resources are available? So all of those things are active learning questions. And again, those things are available to you. If you're not sure what to ask, which a lot of us aren't, those are just some ideas of things you might be able to ask. Let me see. All right. And so, yeah, just kind of preparing yourself. Like I said, a lot of those questions are actually very similar to each other, but it's just a matter of deciding the way that you would ask them. Let me go back to our, oops. Let me go back to our screen sharing. Hold on. Okay. All right, so I have a little video that I wanted to show you all, and this is a video that the school put out, as in like, oh, well, this is the way that the parent-teacher conference is supposed to look like. And I kind of just wanted you to see the video and maybe talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing in the video. Again, remember, this is something that the school is putting out. So once you see the video, we can talk a little bit more about it. But I want you to notice the setting, the people talking, what kind of questions they're asking, and things like that.
Hi, Mrs. Kasuma. Come in.
Hello, Mrs. Harris.
Please sit down. So, we're here to talk about your daughter, Callie. She's doing well in class this year. I'd say she's particularly good at science.
That's good to hear. Kelly loves looking at the stars.
Yes, she enjoyed the astronomy unit we did. I am a bit concerned about her reading, though. She needs extra practice.
Oh no, is it very bad?
No, it's not that bad. But if you can read with her every night at home, that would be very helpful.
Every night? But I'm so busy in the evenings. Sometimes I have to work late.
I understand. But if you could read with her for even 10 minutes a night, I think that would help. Do you think you can do that?
If it's just 10 minutes, yes, I can manage that. Or her father can.
Great. Was there anything on Callie's report card that you were concerned about?
Oh, yes. I wanted to know why her grade is so low for class participation.
Well, as you know, Mrs. Kasuma, Callie is a very smart girl. But sometimes she doesn't listen very well or pay attention in class. That's why her grade is low.
She's a very energetic child and so smart.
She sure is. But I would appreciate you talking to her about trying to focus better and listen to me when I'm speaking. I think that would help her improve her grade.
Okay, I'll speak with her about it.
Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate it. Do you have any other questions or concerns about Callie that you'd like to talk about? We have plenty of time left.
I just want her to do well and be happy.
We want the same for her. I think with the extra reading and a little more attention paid in class, Callie will be just great.
I'm glad. Thank you very much. I don't have any more questions right now.
All right. Please call or email me if you ever want to ask anything else. Otherwise, we'll see you again in a couple of months.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you, Mrs. Harris.
Great to see you, Mrs. Kasuma. Take care.
Okay, so can anybody just give me your impressions about how this all went or things that you noticed? Maribel, if you're talking, you're on mute.
No, I was like, let's see who says something. I can start. I mean, it sounded so nice, right? I see this like video, I'm like, oh gosh, if it was like that, that'd be really nice. I feel like it flowed well. I think this is like the true picture of what it should be. I don't know if it's really representing the way it actually is or the way that I feel. I think there's two things there, right? I think the way it is it feels pretty rushed, especially because I know typically they schedule us for 15 minutes. But I also feel that I'm like trying to cover all these things in that time. So it's a lot of like quick fire questions back and forth. But I like how it seems very like this is the ideal way. Don't know if necessarily I'm connecting with it as the truth. Yeah.
All right. So, does anybody else have any observations they had about? Because I had several when I saw this. Just based on even just the little conference prep that we all gave you. Does anybody else have any observations
Just
especially
agreeing with Maribel that it's like very nice, like very like, oh, so happy.
So what I noticed first was that uh, the parent went into, like, the teacher has an office, like you're not meeting her in her classroom or something like that. So I noticed that right away. And obviously the parent is, you know, I don't know how long she's been in the US, but she's obviously, an immigrant. So it's kind of like, okay, well, we picked that person on purpose, right? We picked that kind of person on purpose to represent this. The other thing that I noticed is that it feels very teacher led, as in the teacher makes the first opening statement, the teacher is leading the conversation. You'll see, well, do you have any other questions? This is happening and this is happening, and and the parent is really just reacting to what's going on and what's being told to her. They're not really leading the conversation, and it feels like, to me, at least watching it, it felt like, okay, well, I'm the big teacher authority and I'm telling you what the issues are with your child, and and you're just supposed to accept it, or you're just supposed to um listen to me. And that's kind of what it felt like to me. I don't know if anybody else has anything that they saw or felt about it.
Yeah, I'm doubling down on the setting itself and the for us here at Mind Shifted, right, that role needs to change where parents are actually coming in prepared versus letting the teacher lead. So I do want to flag that those points, right? Teachers typically meet you in a student chair that's like 10 sizes too small, I feel, if you're in elementary, of course. And then I also feel that that leadership role that the teacher's taking on here, we want to see you as parents take that on, right? And also be collaborative, right? And be able to show up as a leader, but also be a partner.
Yeah. And I, again, just going back to the fact that this is something that's being put out by the school. And I think it's very, I don't know if it's deliberate or not, but it feels a little bit deliberate that they put this lady in her own office, like as if she's somehow supposed to be like the principal or something. It feels like instead of you're meeting the teacher, you're meeting the principal. It feels very much like I'm an authority and you're supposed to listen to me, even though you're the parent, and really you're a consumer of this school. You're you're bringing your child here because you want to, not because you have to. Okay. So but here it feels like, oh no, we very much want to establish that we're the authority here because I'm in my own desk and I'm seem more like the principal than the teacher. And it just felt very much like that to me when I saw it. It felt very, 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 very teacher led and very authoritative in the way that it's on, especially the way that it's like, oh, we're here reinforcing the stereotype as I am the teacher, I am the ultimate authority, and you're the parent, and you just have to listen to what we say and work with the kids. So those are just things that just came to my mind, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong there. That's just the impression that I felt. So, all right, let's. Okay, so if we don't want that kind of to happen to us, if we want to be more active during the parent teacher conference, we want to do a little bit of leading the way. We want to be punctual, present. We want to have an opening statement. We want to definitely arrive early. We don't want to be late because then we feel all rushed, and it just kind of changes the vibe when you're late. turn off your phone. Not it, just turn it off, because you will get phone calls, you will get people texting, and I see it all the time. You know, people get on the phone. Turn off your phone, or put your phone on silent, at least for that time. Bring a notebook and pen to take notes. Let me tell you something. If you come in with a little notebook and a little pen and start taking notes, the teacher starts feeling like, oh my, what's going on? The teacher starts taking you a little bit more seriously here. And have an opening statement ready, you know, so even if they're hi or whatever, I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me. I'm looking forward to discussing, you know, my child's progress. So so tell me, what do you think what are your observations about, whatever your child's name is? So just something to start off, I appreciate you taking this time to meet with me and stuff, so that they know that you mean business. Let me see Melody's here. So they know that you mean business, right? Again, it's very easy to get into that role where the teacher is going to be leading the conversation, but it's your turn now. They're giving you these 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is. So you can take that role of leading, right? We want to go ahead and start positively. We want to listen to what the teacher's saying, and we want to share positive experiences, or let them know what you feel that they're doing right, what your child is telling you that they're doing right. That's one of the reasons why you want to talk to your child. What do you like about their class, right? And we want to be open to whatever feedback they have to say, and see what that, how, whether or not that jives with what you've been hearing from your child, and how that all goes together. We want to ask those active questions that we want to express our concerns constructively. So one of the things that parents do sometimes say, well, why is my child getting such a bad grade here? Why isn't my child getting better grades, right? So maybe instead of saying something like that, you can say, so I noticed that he's not doing well in this subject. What additional support might help them, or what additional support might help them improve their performance? So could you help me understand what the challenges are? And or what resources are available for him if he has problems in this subject, okay? We want to focus on solutions. How can we work together to support my child? Is there anything I can focus on at home, or strategies I can use at home? Can we develop a plan to track his progress? What are the goals that you think we should set for him? Right? And in case your child has special needs or any kind of needs at all, so let's say we want to advocate for his needs. What accommodations might be helpful? How can we modify this to better meet their needs? What options are available for additional support, right? Are questions we can ask. We can clarify the goals, or the action items we're going to say, and that is very important. Before you leave the meeting, clarify how that's going to look like. All right, so if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that we should do this, and this. Or could you give me an example of what you mean when you say, oh, he needs to do better on his reading? Or what was it? How is this going to look like? Or how do I know if this is working? Or the goals have to be specific, and you say those before the meeting ends. Okay, so all right, so just to be clear, we're agreeing that this is going to happen. Okay, and of course you want to take notes. Very important is to take those notes. Like I said, when you bring out that paper and pencil, it's even just the appearance. I mean, you could be just doodling. That's what I do a lot of times. But you bring out those notes, and that notepad is like teachers start taking you seriously, right?
Yeah,
Does anybody have?
can I add, Liz? I just wanted to add that that also is a part of a leader, right?
Yes.
It's a good practice. It might feel a little clunky in the beginning when you're trying to listen and do notes, and sometimes it scribbles, and then you have to like decipher that at the end. But I think as you keep practicing, what like you'll start picking up like identifying like keywords, right? To just make sure that you both are on the same page,
Mhm.
and that you're not leaving there with more questions than answers, that you both are really solid on the outcome, how you're going to check up, how you're going to follow up, how you're going to measure success in your student. And it's okay not to know anything, but asking that question itself, she will be like, oh, well, right? Because sometimes parents don't ask, how am I going to measure that this is working? And that's why I put it in the chat. I thought this was really important. Like, how do I know that this is working, or that this plan that we came up with is going to work? And then the teacher is going to be forced to tell you. Well, and then she's going to be like, well, at the end of the year, and then that's a red flag to say, wait, there's like 6 months till the end. I think that's too far. How about in 2 months? How about in 2 months I'll come back and we talk about it, right? That's kind of always a good default, because you also don't want to wait a whole year to see that progress. You want to check in periodically. And just as a heads up, parent teacher conferences, you can schedule those anytime. The district will give you some times, like I think they have two specific times in a year, but you can have that conference every month if you want, right? I mean, I think don't overdo it, but I would also say check in. Thanks, Liz.
All right. So just a question here. So for you all, what has been your experience with parent-teacher conferences before? Have you felt satisfied? Do you feel you've got good enough information in the conference to be able to support your child? How have teacher conferences been for you all? And Aggie, thank you for. I'm sorry I wasn't able to say hi to you all, but and Melody's back. So, can you all tell me what your experience has been with the parent teacher conferences?
Let's see if Aggie's able to. I know she's putting stuff in the chat, Liz.
Oh,
And she's asking for those resources. So just FYI, also,
okay.
Aggie, I did put those in the chat. And then I'll have Vero email those out to you all. The goal for us is to have these resources on our website. So that's something that we're working on. So for sure, in the next coming months, 1 or 2 months, we'll be able to have a spot on our website where parents can go and get these paper resources for the things that Liz is saying here, like the questions, a checklist for a parent-teacher conference, and then there's another one coming up for language.
Miss Melody or Miss Aggie, are you able to share any of your experiences with parent-teacher conferences that you've had before?
I just had one with my nephew when the teachers had that work day first thing in the morning, so it was early. But she's a new teacher, but she went over, like I told her I wanted to see the results, and he's in bilingual, so I had to tell her like I want both the results. But she said for some reason like they had only tested him, I think mainly like in the Spanish for the maps, or I don't know what she said, but yeah, it would have been helpful to write all that down because and being prepared. But we were able to, I mean, going over the results. I told him like, well, he needs to improve, so she was gonna recommend a text to read support for him. And I followed up this past week, and she said, "Yep, that it's been implemented." But you would think she would have said, "Hey, this was approved," but no. Until we asked, I mean, that's when they let us know. But even with that, she said she didn't sound too confident. She's like that technology doesn't work in the district level. So I mean, I don't know how it's going to help him, but we'll see. He's in third grade, so.
Okay. Miss Aggie, I don't know if you're still, I think you were
I'm here.
walking down.
Yeah, no, I'm here. I haven't had any parent-teacher conferences. I have my granddaughter's in Las Palmas, and I really haven't had the opportunity to have a conference or anything. But all I can say is I feel that sometimes we kind of need to stick together and you know, like for instance, if Belinda or myself, and we have a conference, maybe we just need to kind of invite each other because it's good to have two people there, and just in case she misses something and we're both there at the conference, and if it's allowed. I mean, and, depending if it's allowed. If it's something too personal, of course, no. But I think it's good to have somebody else there, kind of to help and to witness the conversations, because I do know that in the past when I used to go to the parent conferences, they would like say, "Oh no, what I don't remember saying that." Well, no, no. But if you have somebody else there with you that does remember saying that, so I think it'd be a good idea to have somebody go with you for that. 'Cause I might not understand something that the teacher is telling me, or a certain uh, topic or a certain law or something, and somebody else can explain it.
Didn't you meet somebody, Aggie, at the store, and the lady wanted you to go with her?
Yeah, I met a lady from Loma Park, and she hasn't called me, but she reached out to me and told me, because I was talking to somebody else about our enrollment, our kids, how we're losing kids. I was talking to one of my homeless friends, and she goes, I miss, she right away she reached out to me and she said, will you go with me to Loma Park? My daughter's in third grade and she's falling behind, and but I want to talk to the teacher and I don't know how, and I have her number.
Well, you said that they weren't challenging her, right?
They weren't challenging her, yes. That they weren't challenging her, that she was falling behind, that she was GT, but she was falling behind because she wasn't being challenged, because they were focusing too much on students that were already behind. So they were, um, she wasn't being challenged. And I said, sure, sure. But she hasn't called me yet. Um, but these are kind of the type of things that, you find a lot of times these parents, they feel intimidated, because they feel that, they don't know how to speak to a teacher. And so she wanted me to go. And I need to follow up with her, Melody. I forget. Thanks for reminding me. But so, that's what I'm saying. You have parents like that want to speak to their teachers, but they just don't have the confidence to do it. So, um,
And I
but
think
yeah,
uh, that goes to that video that we were seeing, that it feels very like, oh, the teacher's this very important person that, and you can't really, go have any conflicts with the teacher over what she's saying or anything like that. So it's definitely whereas, like I said, we as parents are the consumers of the school, so we should get that proper respect and collaboration with the teacher. So, and I think I was hearing what Melody was saying about how, the teacher was very unsure about how this that technology would work, and so and we were talking a little bit about, well, you were kind of having doubts about that, and that's actually important. That goes into what we're going to talk about right now, which is just some kind of red flags that kind of could come up. What should parents watch out for when you're in the conference? Is if they come up with like vague responses about your child's progress, and you're like, oh, does this teacher even know my child? Is she, or is she's just making assumptions, or basically my child is just basically a name on the lesson plan, on the grade sheet? Does she actually know my child? Reluctance to provide specific examples. So this is something that happens a lot. Okay, so well, even in that video that we saw, it was like, well, she's having some problems with her reading. Okay, well, how? Like what are the problems? Is it with a grammar, a sentence structure? She just doesn't want to read for a long time, or what are the problems? You can't just say a sentence like, oh, well, they're having problems with her reading, she needs to work on her reading. But in what? You know, you need those specific examples, because saying, oh well, she's having problems with reading, can you work on her with her reading, really doesn't tell you very much about, well, what are we working on here, right? Unclear expectations or goals. They're very, you don't, the student isn't clear about what the expectations are, what they're supposed to be doing, what is what work they're supposed to be turning in, or what is it supposed to happen, and lack of concrete suggestions for improvement. So we'll just help her with her math. But on what are the problems that he's having in math? Yeah, just help them with their math, or read to them for 10 minutes a day. Okay, but like what? Are we doing like Lexile, because they need to be reading at grade level? Can you, or can you give me suggestions? So we need more, we need concrete suggestions of what we're supposed to do, because otherwise that's really mean, those suggestions mean nothing. Even like I said, that video of a parent teacher conference was put out for the school, and saying something like, well, just read with her 10 minutes a day. Okay, but what do you want me to read, or what kind of what kind of books would you like me to read with her, or what? Are we reading her text? Are we reading books? What are we reading here? So I don't know if anybody has anything else to add, Maribel.
Yeah, I do. I think that, so I'll use my latest example of the parent-teacher conference that I went to, and it was in high school. And it was very much like this. Like it was, the teacher did not have the star results of my son. So that already told me you have no idea where he needs to improve, right? That was one piece that I was like, okay, we're not prepared. I expected her to give me the results versus me show up with them, but then that's kind of where we were, right? There was a section, because this was specifically on reading, where I was asking her what area, right? Like where? And she was like, and we're like, is it comprehension, right? Because we were just guessing. She was not being very clear. And she said it was not comprehension, it was finding out what the words meant. So if there was a word that he didn't understand, there was no action taken from my son to find out in a dictionary or in like just a full, like asking a question like, what does this word mean? So then that was affecting the way that he was reading the sentence, right? Because if he doesn't know the word and doesn't know what it means, then he doesn't understand what's happening, right? So it was just a lot of digging into what area. And when I also asked for her to give me like some suggestions on how we can help at home, very unsupported. Like it was just not read with him 10 minutes. It was more like help him with finding out those words. But I just was like, well, what if like we do some of that like higher ed word search and then talk about what these words mean, right? I was suggesting versus the teacher suggesting, which was very discouraging. Sometimes when we go up to our parent-teacher conferences and we expect our teacher to be able to help us or give us some guidance, sometimes that doesn't happen. And it's very common when a teacher has a lot of kids, right? So what I did notice, and that you guys might notice too, my son was there during this meeting, and she would deflect the question to my son and be like, oh, well, you know, right? Like when you're sitting over here and we're going to cover this in the next section. Like she would just kind of try to overshadow the question and the answer and just kind of deflect it to my son. And so those are always red flags. My thought for those, when you guys do get into those parent-teacher conferences and they're full of BS, right? To be really frank with you, is sending a follow-up email, because then I asked her, okay, can you send me, right? You always kind of want to put it on her as well and be like, all right, how about you send me some ideas on how we can do this at home, and can you share with me some of the testing or some of the data, right? Always think about data as how you're going to measure the progress, because you telling me that he can't read or me telling you that he doesn't like to read doesn't help me. I need to see the data that's proving that he's not able to do it and what he's doing and what we're doing to make it happen, right? So I asked her to send me a list of things that we could do at home. I asked her to send me the curriculum that they're going to be working on for the next 6 weeks to 9 weeks so that I can know what they're addressing. And then that's my email to her, and it's already, remember, that's your receipt. So once you have that, she can't really turn away and say, oh, you didn't ask for anything. I sent it, right? So she right away sent me that information after that conference.
Right. And one of the things also I wanted to just note there is when you're doing that whole thing of, stabbing in the dark, okay, well, is it this? Well, is it this? Well, is it this? It's like you're wasting time. You only have 15 minutes with a teacher. And if you're like there trying to figure out what's going on and she doesn't know, the teacher doesn't know, or the teacher isn't sure, it feels like, okay, well, this will fit as much as you were going to have to be prepared. She should be doubly prepared because this is what she's supposed to be doing, right? So it just kind of feels very very disrespectful and a waste of time when you're the one that has to be providing the feedback, right? So when you're the one that's supposed to be when you're the one that's providing the information that she's already supposed to have. So it just kind of feels very like, I mean, well, then why are we doing this? Why did I even come here if you didn't even know? So anyway, it's
So
just.
before you move on, I do want to add that that's why you want to be that parent that's prepared ahead of it. If you already know you scheduled this meeting, you can ask them for things in advance. Like, hey, I want to go over X, Y, and Z, right? Like, I didn't do that in this time because I just thought that they should have it. But I guess not for star results, right? So then it would be really important as a parent leader to say, hey, I know we're meeting. And here's this is the agenda, right? I want to make sure we cover this, this, and this. Those are like the most important items. And once you show up, that teacher should have an expectation, or at least she can be prepared to cover those answers with you. I saw that Melody posted a picture of her parent-teacher conference sheet that it was like, I guess, a receipt from the teacher. And my suggestion, if she still hasn't, and depending on when this meeting was, right, follow up Melody and ask, hey, I noted that we talked about this and I haven't received what I asked for the Lexile score. And just keep.
I just did. I sent it on
good.
Dojo.
Keep being persistent because they have a receipt that they met with you. Now it's up to us to make sure that we follow up on the asks that were communicated between that meeting.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Should they have that for him being in third grade?
Yeah, you can have the Lexile score. I think so. It doesn't have to be in the star, even though he has maybe not taken the star yet, but that is something that they still track. They need to know what letter grade of reading level that your child is at. It might not be that Lexile score, but I'm pretty sure that that is what it is. Yeah.
And just to go back on that a little bit, we I'm sorry, I completely lost my train of thought, but we want to go ahead and just because when you were saying that about we're being prepared and we can send something to them in advance, I think one of the things is that the teacher has this idea that, again, going back to that video, oh, well, you're just going to sit here and receive the information I'm giving you. But when you actually start demanding things like, hey, what's this and what's this, and start doing those active learning questions, then they're like, oh man, I wasn't prepared for that. So but we need to teach parents to do that. Parents need to learn so that teachers can be like, hey, I need to know this information and actually prepare myself for when these parents come see me. Right. Okay. And then again, here we get to this thing of collaboration versus confrontation. Sometimes when you're, again, just bring that little notepad and that pen, it's like, oh, or starting to ask those kinds of questions, and all of a sudden you're pegged as, oh, you're that mom, you're that kind of mom, kind of like, oh, you're the troublemaker, you're the one that just because you want to actually have information on this kid that they're with so many hours a day. So you start getting kind of that reputation, and we do want to foster this idea of collaboration versus confrontation, because the one who suffers the most when there is a feeling of confrontation between the teacher is the child, of course, their student. That's the one that usually suffers when there's a confrontation. So we do want to keep that feeling of collaboration going on, as long as the teacher is doing a reasonable job, of course. So one of the first things we want to do is to start those lines of communication early. That's a really good time, as before as school starts, is to use that passport. So the teacher kind of knows, oh, this mom is on her game. Okay, so she's giving me this passport, so that means that she's probably going to be wanting, documentation and information from me. So that's a good way to start those lines of communication, is giving them that passport. Like, hey, I just wanted you to learn more about my child, so here's the passport so that you can get some more information about them, and I'm gonna want to be keeping track of what's going on with him. So just kind of letting them know, and using collaborative language. And I'll have a little document that talks about how to use that collaborative language instead of confrontational language. Use examples when addressing concerns. I've noticed that when I think I don't remember if it was Dorothy that said it, but that they were having problems reading the Hunger Games, and that they didn't like that. Okay, that is a great example. You are being very specific about what's happening. They're bored, they don't like the text, therefore they're having problems reading it. All right, so that is a great example, right? Practice active partnership. We want to go ahead and say, we're going to share the information from home. Oh, well, he's going through this and this, so that might be affecting it. We ask for ways to support their learning, right? Or offer to volunteer or help when you're able to. And let the teacher know that you're going to follow through with what she's asking from you, right? So when we want to use we language, so let's say, what can we do to help him? What is how can we work together to help him, or what can we do to help him get through this, or what can again, frame it as a collaboration between you and her. Okay, well, this isn't like, okay, well, you need to be doing this for him. Okay, what can we do to be helping him with these struggles that he's having, right? And try to stay away from and it's not offensive phrases, it's offense phrases, because offense phrases put people on the defense, right? Instead of saying things like, well, you're not challenging my child enough, we can say things like, well, I've noticed that that my child is having a lot of difficulties with this, or that he's feeling very bored in class. Could we discuss strategies to keep them engaged? Or what are your thoughts on providing additional enrichment? How can we work together to address this, right? So we wanted to use those kinds of phrases. I've observed that this is happening. Could you help me understand, your perspective on this? Or so I'm wondering about this issue that happened. right? So use those kinds of things instead of saying, well, my child told me this. And then it's when you use language like that, it can feel very confrontational. Well, this is your issue, right? Or that my child only has issues in your class. So that feels very accusatory. It feels very like you're going on the offensive. So that puts her on the defensive, right? So we want to go ahead and try and stay away from that kind of language. And we want to express appreciation for what they are doing right. Because sometimes as a teacher, it feels like you have 23 parents that are all upset with you. So we want to go ahead and we do want to express appreciation for what the teacher is doing correct, right? And I'm gonna just show you a little bit of an example of these collaborative language. So some of the phrases that we want to avoid: you're not doing enough, my child never has these problems at home, the other teachers don't have this issue, this is your fault, it's because you don't understand my child, what are you doing to help my child, you need to fix this, or that's not going to work, you didn't do this right. So those are very, very aggressive offense phrases that are going to put the teachers on the defense, right? Could you help me understand? So I'm wondering about this. Help me understand. What if we tried this? So building on your point, or how would you feel if we tried this? Is it possible that this could be done? Right? What strategies do you think might be able to might help him? How can we work together to address this? So could we explore solutions together? Or so I'm looking to find, how what solutions can we come up with, right? So those are often those are more collaborative languages that we can use. All right, and I don't know if anybody has any issues to anything to share on this.
Yeah, I like this topic a lot, or in this section, because I know as a parent and caregiver that has already maybe been jaded and has a negative experience in a parent teacher conference, it's very easy to always show up with that not offensive language, but not collaborative language, right? And so I think it's hard, but it's good to see the things that we're saying, because that also makes the teacher feel some kind of way, and it could either develop our partnership together moving forward, or it can stop and hinder that partnership, right? So I think it is hard and I say that because a lot of our families are more tough now, right? And we also feel like we're not going to take anything that they tell us, but you also have to find the right balance of what does it look like to be a partner. And for me, it costs me a lot. It's challenging for me to sometimes acknowledge the good things when I see a lot of bad things, right? And I know that's the case for a lot of us. And so I would just say that be generous, or even if you feel like I have to be extra generous sometimes when something right is happening, right? Even if it's the silliest something, but at least you're balancing out the negative pieces with the positive pieces. And teachers don't always get good compliments, right? I mean, they don't. So I think we do have to find that grace, right? To say, okay, yes, you're doing this. Man, I know you have 20 kids. You're one tough teacher. Okay, that was a compliment, right? Like, I didn't necessarily have to say you're doing all the things great, but I'm acknowledging that your job is hard. I'm acknowledging that it's not easy. But then now I want to dig into my child, right? So I think it's just finding that balance of how to compliment and being meaningful and intentional, and don't fake it, right? If you don't have a positive comment or something to praise them and you're not feeling it, and don't do it on purpose, because it will show if you're not being truthful about it, right? So really mean it, only say what you mean. And if you're that person that's hardcore, try to find that grace and that those connecting moments that you can give your teacher.
And of course, when we want to be courteous, and just like we would want people to treat us, if we're gonna send emails, we're gonna send the emails during regular people's working hours, right? We don't want to be sending emails at 3 a.m. in the morning. We're gonna keep the messages focused on our child. We're gonna allow reasonable response time for them to get back to us. And you want to document important conversations. That's why your emails are good, kind of good, because you can just say, hey, so this and this and this we agreed on, right? And then there is a written documentation of what was agreed on. So we and the important thing is when you build a collaborative relationship with your teacher, of course that helps the child. It reduces people getting defensive. It leads to better solutions for everybody, and creates a more positive environment, because it's for me, I'm a person that really doesn't like a lot of conflict, or I get very tortured about it. I'll overthink it forever. So it's like, oh, if I have to walk in every day and see this teacher, and I have a really I have a really bad relationship with a teacher, and it's like, oh, it just ruins my whole day. So it's like we want to create a positive environment, a more positive environment for people, right? For the child especially. And it's just better for everybody in general when we can have more collaboration. Let me see, let me go back here. Back to sharing.
I put a question in the chat really quick. So what if, like I put in there, like what if you're like the last parent of the day? Hold on. You're the last parent of the day, the teacher's already annoyed. You can tell, right, that they're having whatever's going on. Like, how do you change that to become a more positive environment? Like, what can you do?
That's a hard one, because I honestly feel like that's kind of on her. Um, so I feel like I mean, there's things you can do. You can be very positive and very cheery, even though she is not being that way to you. And I don't know that you can change her, because the way I feel about it is, and I used to work at a call center, and one phone call I would have, and it would be a lady screaming at me, telling me that I wasn't helping her, telling me this, telling me that, insulting me, saying all these things. And I would, we'd put down the phone, and I'd get the next call not even 2 or 3 seconds later, and I'd have to be the same cheery person, that's a very, and treat her with a lot of respect, and not let the previous phone call affect my, the way that I was going to treat this other person. So I do feel like it's on them a little bit. That's on them. They have to do that. Now, unfortunately, we can say, oh well, it's on them, but maybe it's not going to happen. But I feel like, okay, well, if the teacher is annoyed, if you truly care and want to do something, I think, you can just acknowledge that, oh, how has the day been for you? And maybe they're going to start spilling their guts to you, I don't know, but just let them know that you empathize that they are going through this, and maybe they've had a really bad time, and just, kind of remind them that you're a different person, that they're now talking to a different parent, and you have your own issue, you have your own things that you're going to want to be talking about. But but do acknowledge, like, hey, so how has the day been going? Have you had a lot of meetings, or just, maybe sometimes even just acknowledging that they've had a hard day, that a person has had a hard day does a lot, because it's like, oh, somebody's actually appreciating that I've been going through this, because maybe they just went with a parent who was who was saying all those things, who was saying, oh, it's your fault, it's, you didn't do this and you didn't do this for my child, and they've, they're very sensitive and they've had all this. So acknowledging, hey, how's it been going? Have you been having a hard time today, or have you how's it been going today? It's just acknowledging how they're feeling, maybe, and you yourself trying to keep positive a positive atmosphere.
Yeah,
That's
I want to add, because I think it becomes one of those things like you got to learn to manage, right? I think as a powerful parent that you guys are, try not to schedule it at the end of the day, right? Usually some districts have the whole, like they allot a day for them to just have parent teacher conference. Not everybody does that. But there is disadvantages and advantages of having it at the end of the day as well, right? At the end of the day, you might not have interruptions, right? It's like after school, and be mindful of that. That could be a strategy that you use, right? How about I take her a little pan dulce, un pedacito de pan, una galletita, right? Like start off there, and I hate to say those things because it sounds like I'm a barbera, right? I'm trying to make her seem excited or happy, but it is the end of the day. We have to be mindful that her job is very difficult with tons of kids, right? And it's exhausting to be a teacher. So I think it's just that little bit of like, hey, I brought you a little snack. Maybe we can both have a snack while we're talking about this very important issue, right? I would say that could be used as a strategy. I think also you can decide that if it didn't go well in that afternoon, the next one you're going to be like, maybe I should do it in a different time set, right? Maybe in the morning. Test out the best times that you think that teacher is going to be giving you the full attention. And so I would say those could be used in different varieties and different strategies. I, as a parent with a special needs child, right, I have to meet with a whole bunch of people. I meet with 10 people at my table. And for the last few years, I take breakfast tacos, or I take, yes, it's sale caro, right? I spend like $30 or so, $30 or $40 depending for my table, but I also feel like I don't really meet with them much, right? That's kind of my thank you when I don't send thank you appreciation gifts for all the 8 people or whatever. But that's something that gets them, like, they feel valued, to be honest. Like sometimes I do ask very direct questions, and you guys know me. So I'm not there to shoot the shit. Sorry, and apologize for that, but not really, right? Like I'm not there to just be my friend. I'm there to ask direct questions, and I know how tough I can be. I need to start off with something sweet, something to just know that you're valued, but I really think this is an important conversation. So I know for those of us, it could be anything. It could be just a note, guys. Like I always tell people, you don't have to spend money to show appreciation or be grateful. You could just give them a little letter or a little card that says, we appreciate you. Maybe your child can draw a picture. That's enough sometimes for a teacher. And so if you can just kind of start off that way, that would set the stage. I would steer away from trying to be the counselor. It's not my problem if you're having a day, but if you feel like you're already in that conversation with the teacher and everything's going wrong, just say, you know what, I'm feeling really disconnected. It's okay to say, I'm gonna reschedule with you. You could do that, right? Like, damn it, I don't want to do that because this took a lot for me to go and talk to you. But if you're feeling you're not going to get where you want with the questions that you have and how the teacher is acting or how she's showing her behavior, just reschedule and just say, hey, I'm just not feeling really good right now. I'll reschedule with you for next week. Maybe it'll be a better day for both of us. And that's what you can say, right? I don't think you should be the counselor. Don't open that door because sometimes it's good, but not really. You're probably going to get all the negative feedback from a teacher, and then you're going to be wondering, oh my God, is this how she behaves in class, right? So don't open the door if you're not ready for the consequences, is my thought. Yeah.
And the way that I used to handle it when people were very, very annoyed with me is the more annoyed they were with me, the more polite and nice I would make my voice be. I'd be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that's happening. I feel so bad." Just to kind of like to make the contrast so bad. And sometimes it would completely disarm them, like, "Oh man, I'm kind of acting like a jerk," And so that's what I would usually do, is just a customer service thing. Is the more annoyed and ugly that they would get with me, the more polite and sweet I would try to be, just to kind of make them like snap, like, "Hey, I'm kind of behaving a little bit jerky, so I need to stop." Especially because it's on her. She is meeting with you, and this is her job, and you can literally complain if it's like that, right? You can kind of say, "Hey, she was talking to me, but she was kind of being very rude." So yeah, just a thing to throw out there. All right, let's see, back to our sharing. Okay. And here are just oh, I think I already shared that. So let me go ahead and okay. So does anybody want to do a little role play, practice their questions that they would ask? Or so do you want to be the parent, Delia?
Sure.
Okay. All right, so I'm actually in a better mood than I was, so I'm gonna be in a good mood for you. Hi, how are you doing, Miss? I for I always call you Delia. I forgot you, Miss
You can call
Ruiz,
me Deli.
right?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, because I always associate Miss Reese with my mom, so you can call me Deli.
Okay, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing okay. So we're here to talk about your son and how he's doing in school. So before we start, do you have any questions?
Just about his STAR test results. I know that, and it's not really a question. Well, I guess it is. He masters. He usually does really well in his tests, masters. But it's not a concern, but is how, based on that, like, are you being able to challenge him, or what kind of things can we do extra? Because I know behaviors do arise when he's bored, or if he feels like he already knows the subject that matters. So,
Oh, you know what? I haven't been able to access his STAR test scores. Um, so I haven't really seen that. So I haven't really been able to kind of plan for that. But he's doing really well. I mean, he's a good student.
okay. Well, yeah. Well, I get that. But now me telling you, and I do have them with me here, so you can see, like, this is
Oh,
he was
okay,
mastered, and
okay.
then these are the ones from the past, because I am that parent that even if I don't get, the school doesn't send them to me, I do look it up and print them out. And we do go over them. He likes to go over the ones he's missed to see why he missed it. So based on this, so what can we do? What is it, can you provide and help with
Oh, okay.
supporting him for extra, and maybe it's extra reading, or extra, sending him home with extra math problems, or some things we can do at home.
Okay. You know what? Do you mind leaving these with me?
I can, if you want to make a copy, or I mean, you have access to it yourself. I mean, by going online. I mean, I printed these at home, so I wouldn't just want to give them to you, but
Okay, because I'm probably gonna have to go over this to kind of make a little bit of a better plan, and that way I can email you what I end up with, based on the information here, because I haven't really had a chance to
well, then
look at this information.
can
But
we?
he's doing really good. You really shouldn't be worried about him.
No, I'm not worried, but I know that that's when he does tend to get in trouble, is if he's not, engaged. It's because it's something he knows, he gets bored, behaviors start, and I don't want that to be a problem, or like, calling me that there's issues are going on. But can we reschedule for another day once you've had time to review this, so we can you know, maybe you have strategies and maybe I can have some too. We can collaborate on maybe things that we can do to support him.
Um, I mean, yeah, sure, we can go ahead and reschedule. So just so I
Or
can,
not reschedule, just have a follow-up meeting, we can meet.
okay.
Even if
Oh,
it's
yeah,
virtual, we can do it virtually. It doesn't have to be in person, but
okay, yeah, sure. We can go ahead and do that. Now once I've had an opportunity to look at all this data that you have for me,
okay.
yeah, no, definitely we can do that. But you know,
Okay,
like I said,
I'll send you an email, a follow-up with like what we talked about, and then with, you know, some dates and times that would work for you.
all right. No, thank you. Thank you. We'll go ahead and do that. And we can go ahead and set that up and when both of us have a chance. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I didn't believe it, but apparently that's very common. According to Maribel, that's very common, that the teacher is definitely not prepared for your questions.
Yep. Hi, Miss Dorothy. So just join.
Hi, Miss Dorothy. We were just doing a little replay of our parent teacher conference and how unprepared sometimes the teacher can be when you start asking actual questions instead of just saying, well, how's he doing? And getting a very general answer. All right, so how did you all feel about that? And I don't know who's in our class right now.
And I think, well, Mario's on her phone, so she's probably not good.
Yeah. Melody.
So they all exited. Yeah, it's just Miss Dorothy. Yeah.
Okay, Miss Dorothy. Okay. And I don't think she saw enough of it to really make an opinion. But anyway, it's just I just wanted to show how it's very easy for the teacher to kind of be prepared to just say, "Oh, he's doing great." And to think that when she says those words that you as a parent are just going to be okay with that. Like, oh, well, that's all I wanted to hear is that he's doing great instead of wanting something specific. And then they're not ready for it. And you did a great job of figuring, okay, well, if she's not ready, how are we going to do this? Right? By saying, okay, well, can we meet? Can we follow up? Because I really want to know this information. Right? So that was a really good way of doing that. All right. What should parents watch out for when you're doing this, when you're going through all this is for trying to use this trying to be collaborative with a parent is a lack of response. Why if you're sending them emails, you requested an email back and you're not getting it. You've waited a long enough time and you're not getting any response. You've sent her emails, you've sent her a text, maybe you've sent messages through whatever school app you all use, and you're not getting any information back. Having dismissive attitudes about what you have to say. But like kind of the way that I was doing and saying, oh, he's doing great. You shouldn't worry about him. Why are you worrying about him? He's doing great, or not, or dismissing the concerns that you have. Having those unclear expectations, that we talked about that, not being, that the child doesn't know what the expectations are, not having consistent information, not, I'm sorry, having inconsistent information or not having any information, like I didn't have the STAR test, or access to the STAR test. And you expressed your concerns, and I wasn't able to resolve them, not at that point in time, right? You have unresolved concerns and you're waiting for a follow-up and it still hasn't come. So those are things that you have to watch out for. And then we're looking at the escalation guidelines, kind of, let's say that you've been to the parent teacher conference, whatever, the scheduled one, you want to ask for a parent teacher conference because of some issue going on. He's having a really difficult time with his reading or with a particular subject. He is having a really difficult time at school because of bullying. The child is having a really difficult time because of maybe things that are going on. Or I'm going to tell you, the only time I had a difficult time at school was when I was forced to sit in those, they would sit you alphabetically back in the day. And I am a Vasquez. I used to be a Vasquez. So I would always sit in if I was sitting alphabetically, I would get stuck in the back of class. And at the time, we all didn't know that I needed glasses. So I couldn't see the board. What was, I couldn't see what was happening on the board. I couldn't see the letters or anything. So I was having a difficult time doing the work. And it had nothing to do with anything except for the fact that I couldn't see. And sometimes it's just that simple, right? But we need to know. So we need to gather our, we need to ask for a specific meeting. It's not a scheduled parent-teacher conference, but you have a particular concern. So you want to schedule it. You want to go ahead and first of all, figure out, okay, so I have this concern. You need to gather your research, whether it's, he was a straight A student and all of a sudden his work has gotten, his grades have gone down. So I need to somehow bring this up with the teacher. So I'm going to have his homework assignments with me to show to the teacher how his work has been declining, and we need to figure out why. Or he's having a difficult time with his behavior. His behavior has really changed at school, but not necessarily at home. We need to find out what was going on. So any concern that you have you want to go ahead and gather the information that you have, and even because you have to have some kind of evidence, right? You want to have some kind of evidence to be able to express his concern. It can't be just like, oh well, my son tells me you're being mean to him. Okay, well that just doesn't really tell you very much. So let's say, okay, well, on September the 23rd, my child came home and told me that this and this happened. And it's like, okay, well, one incident doesn't really, it's hard to say that one incident is really something. But on October the 6th, he came and told me that this and this happened. And then again, on October the 17th, he told me that this and this happened. So there you now have a pattern of things that are happening. You write those things down, and that way that is part of gathering your evidence, right? Then we want to go ahead and request a meeting, and I'll show you the I don't know if the other wants to put it in chat, the sheet to go ahead and request a parent meeting.
I don't have access. I don't have
Okay.
the thing on.
Let me see.
To be able to do that.
Well, I'll put it up once I finish here. Then we want to discuss the. We want to go ahead and present the information that we have, and see what the person's going to say, and what the follow-up is going to be. What bring up the concerns, and figure out what the solution is, right? And then if there is nothing done, if you don't get any kind of resolution, then we're going to escalate it. We're going to escalate it to somebody higher, right? Escalate it to the principal, the department chair, whatever, but we're going to have to escalate it to that next step. Let me go ahead and show you the little. All right. So this is a letter to just request a parent-teacher conference. And like I said, I'll go ahead and put this in the chat or send it to. Let me see. All right, I just sent it in the chat right now. Okay. And, all right, and again, so this is just a parent-teacher meeting outside of the actual, scheduled parent-teacher meeting. You want to discuss some kind of concern, and for escalating, we attempted to talk to the teacher first. One of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to go directly to the principal because this is happening. You want to try and attempt to talk to the teacher first about it. But if that doesn't work, where you don't get any resolution, you want to review the school policies about what they say about this, and document that, have some kind of documentation that you did meet with a teacher, and request to meet with the principal and let them know you already talked to the teacher and there was no resolution, right? All right. So have any of you ever had to escalate a concern to someone other than the teacher? What happened? Has anybody ever had to do that?
No, I haven't.
All right. Miss Deborah, do you know if Deborah's still here?
Dorothy, no, she's not anymore.
Okay.
I can add though, I won't be on camera, but hopefully you all can hear me.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've had that situation before where, we weren't getting resolution from the teacher itself on meeting. And so I did have to escalate it to the principal. That was really in the beginning of this journey with Buseki, but the principal I realize that they're not in the know of everything, right? A principal oversees their school, but might not be in full understanding of what programs exist inside of their school sometimes. And that's when I realized, okay, she doesn't really know what's going on. My son goes to a very specific program in her school, but also she didn't know what the program was about or why it was accommodating children with special needs. So it was a learning experience. But the principal in really got to the core of, is this something that she can help in the solution, or is this more of a district-wide concern? The principal will be able to give you a little bit of answers when there isn't a resolution just from the teacher. So it's just kind of going up that ladder, right? If the teacher can't really resolve anything, you move on and include the principal. The same process of kind of getting to know your teacher is going to be involved with getting to know your principal. They might not know what you're talking about. They might need context. So it might require you to just individually send one for her, including the teacher in there so that everybody's on the same page. But escalating does work. At least it'll give you a good direction of what next steps to take.
Yeah. But we do want to go ahead and make that attempt to have a direct meeting, because that way it's on record that I did try. You did try and get some resolution, but it just didn't happen. So you had to escalate it. That's just what it is. All right. So following up, right? Closing up the meeting. Of course, what you want to do is share your contact information, share the best contact information. How do I get in, what's the best way to get in contact with you? Do I send you emails? Do I send you messages on the school app? How is the best way to get in contact with you and get an answer back, right? Request your documentation, any kind of documentation that you got. Or am I going to get a copy of that? Could you email that form to me if it's something that's going to be virtual? You know, request anything that you sign, definitely. Any action items that you all talked about, definitely you want to do that. Just get it concrete. I was like, oh, can we have an email about the meeting that we just had? Just a summary of information about what we agreed on, right? You have your own notes, of course, but it's good to see what the person has in their notes, right? When should we check in next? Or what's the best way to reach you? Can we schedule a follow-up meeting just like Delia did it? So all of those things, right? And you know, if we need it, can you share any assessments or evaluations? Is there so these observations that you've done on my child, is there any written documentation, or can we get copies of the improvement plan? All of that you want to do, right? um and then to close the meeting, so you know, again, just go over what you all agreed on. Okay, so the things that we agreed on are this, and this. Or so from what you can say, from what I understand, we said we were going to do this, and this. All right, well, and you know, so thank you for meeting with me, or thank you for helping me understand how to better support you know, my child. Just appreciation for taking the time to meet with me, right? And I don't, since nobody's on, none of our students are on the call anymore, I won't go ahead and go into this one, but it's just a little document, kind of a little checklist of basically everything that we're talking about here, all of the steps, right? All right. So for your homework, remember, we are going to need your written story by December 6th. And we want to go ahead and have you practice that story and read it. And you're going to have to read it for us in under 3 minutes. But we can give you a little few extra seconds or whatever. But, you know, try and get it as concise as you can, right? And then your final announcements, Maribel, I don't know if you're still with us, if you can give us that, the.
Yep. Yep, I can work on it. So definitely just save the date for December 6th. We're gonna have a celebration. Just hold it for now. We will give you details in the next class. But make sure you're reserving that that spot and that time, which is the same time for this class, 10 a.m. And then also just for those of you, I mean, our registration is closed for the zoo, but if you haven't received a call from us, we are making those calls and finalizing those calls today, just as an update. And that is pretty much it. Other than if you haven't seen our newsletter, you're missing out. Our newsletter comes out every month. And if you have any questions or want to know how to get into our newsletter list, make sure you reach out to us to let us know. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you. And I think that is it. Thank you all so much for joining our class today. And I hope you got some good tips and techniques to go ahead and make, just get a little bit more information. Make your parent-teacher conference really count. All right. Thank you and goodbye, everybody. And I don't know who has the stop recording.
Yeah, I think when we finish, it'll start downloading. So I would say let's finish and then we can follow up on a recap. I'll call you guys individually.
Okay. All right.
Thank you all.
All right. Bye. Bye, Vero.
Bye, Liz. Ok, ¿y quién va a parar este? ¿Qué onda? Puedes pararlo de acá, a ver. No, no puedes.